Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my review of the Beetlejuice movies 1 and 2. As always, you can find all episodes of the podcast, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live recording streams on Discord, or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Michael Strange and Troubled Minds Radio comes on. As always, I want to thank Michael Strange for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. If you'd like to support my show, you can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. You can sign up for the Patreon page and get all the content that I've made over there, as well as whatever I make in the future, whatever I'm able to. And you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So, again, spoiler warning here for an older movie, but we will be getting to a newer movie once we get done with this one. So I want to keep saying that just for everyone who may not want spoilers. We are still working our way through the first of the 2 Beetlejuice movies, and just got through to the point where the Delia held a dinner, and everyone there was frightened off. But even after that happened, Delia and Charles were positive that the house was haunted, but and of course Lydia, the daughter, was, but all the rest of the guests were not. They became skeptical right after it was done and left the house. And let me get back to my little guide here, Wikipedia document. So after this dinner was done, Delia wanted to talk with the Maitlands, and so she led everyone upstairs to the attic and demanded to be let into the attic. And eventually, after shouting and knocking on the door, it opened. And even though the Maitlands couldn't leave, they are nowhere to be seen in the room. And so the family looks for them, including a friend of theirs, Otho, who is into the paranormal, as well as into home decorating. And while they're up there, Otho is the one that finds the handbook for the recently deceased. And they end up leaving because Delia doesn't want to frighten the ghosts away. And so they leave, and you find out that Adam and Barbara are still technically attached to the house, literally hanging out off of the side of it from the window, holding onto the window ledge with their hands. And so as they come back in, that is when Beetlejuice decides to take action. And so that's when he shows up. He as the family is heading down the stairs back to they're on the second floor still, going to head down to the ground floor. Beetlejuice sort of takes the form of a snake using the railing for the stairs. It actually separates the railing separates from all the spindles of the stairway railing, and pretty much just attacks Otho and Charles. and causes everyone else to go into hiding. Delia escapes, and Beetlejuice is focusing on Lydia, and that's when Adam and Barbara show up, and Barbara says Beetlejuice's name 3 times, which, again, according to rules that are not really explained in detail, sends him back into the model. And Lydia doesn't know what's going on, and she tells everyone to leave her alone. And the implication there is not just the ghosts, it's just everyone in the household. So Adam and Barbara go back to look at the model because they hear a crash inside the model, and Barbara warns Beetlejuice to leave Lydia and the family alone, and they sort of have an argument, and there's a distraction that shows up after for Beetlejuice after Barbara tries to sort of contain him and is unable to in her hand, basically, because he's tiny still at this point. And Adam and Barbara are sort of teleported, in a way, back into the waiting room office complex. And so the okay, so I'm looking at this here. I lost my spot. Okay, so yeah, they Adam and Barbara are in this afterlife office complex again, which means, of course, it's not really talked about in the movie a lot, but time is passing faster, slower. I'm getting this wrong. Time moves faster for them, basically. Time goes on without them, and it only seems like they're in this other side office for a little while. But you have to keep in mind that time is going by compared to what they're experiencing at a much faster rate. So days go by between the dinner party aftermath and when they go back to the physical world. And Juno calls them, though. Again, she calls them to her office and tells them that they really messed up by, of course, dealing with Beetlejuice, but also letting Otho get this handbook for the recently deceased. And that's because, even though it may be hard to read, hard to figure out at times, it does show proof and details about the afterlife that, again, for whatever rules or reasons there are, the living are not supposed to know about. Meanwhile, Lydia is not doing well. She's decides she wants to go into the afterlife, and she looks for Adam and Barbara first, but of course they're not there, and so this is where she encounters Beetlejuice again, and through him trying to tell her what his name is without saying it, she realizes that he is the snake that could have killed her father and Otho when he basically dropped them from a distance and down to the ground floor, either through the stairs or over the stairs, basically. So, of course, Adam and Barbara, they arrive just as Lydia is about to strike a deal with Beetlejuice, basically to set him free so that he can then take her to the afterlife, which means killing her, which she either doesn't realize or doesn't care at that point. Adam and Barbara arrive just in time to stop her from doing that. And meanwhile, they've, of course, have these hideous appearances that they took on to frighten the family out of the house. And they have to return to normal and talk with Lydia. and about how basically the being spirits, being dead, doesn't solve all the problems that she might think that it would. So, meanwhile, the Charles and Delia want to capitalize on the fact that there are ghosts in their house, and they want to sort of set up this paranormal community in a way to research. And what they don't say, but is obvious, is to research and exploit these any kind of activity that might be there for money, to make money off of it. So they invite Maxie Dean and his wife over, and Maxie Dean is the head of the company that Charles worked for, and they have Otho use this handbook for the recently deceased to perform some kind of a ritual to summon Adam and Barbara into the physical world. And but in the process of doing this, and of course there's a thunderstorm that starts as soon as the ceremony is started, and but when this happens, the Maitlands start to decay. They're newly formed, however it happens, newly formed bodies start to decay. And Lydia is afraid that they're basically not going to survive whatever is happening to them, because they've also been summoned into their wedding clothes, which the Dietzes found when they got the house. So Lydia wants to save the Maitlands, and but she doesn't know how. But she thinks that she figures that Beetlejuice could figure that out. Turns out the deal that part of the deal that he hadn't mentioned yet was that in order for him to help her, she had to set him free, and they had to get married. And so at this point, Lydia is panicking, and so she agrees to this ceremony, to this wedding. And she says his name, Beetlejuice's name, 3 times. So this releases him again from this model, which has been brought down to the ground floor for this presentation to these this other couple, and who are also wanting proof of the paranormal as well, which they definitely get. So he shows up, Beetlejuice shows up, and pretty much undoes the ceremony, the ritual that has been done on the Maitlands. And then he starts to get the house ready, physically, literally, for this wedding. And he gets rid of, we'll just say that, leave the details for you all to check out, and if you haven't watched the movie already, he gets rid of the Deans and Otho, basically chases them out, sends them away, and and gets ready for the wedding, of course, with the witnesses being Lydia's father and stepmother. And meanwhile, the Maitlands are starting to recover their sort of spiritual form, and the movie ends with them finally figuring out how to do this, how to stop him from carrying out this wedding. They try at first, of course, to just say his name 3 times, but he uses his powers, which are really considerable when you watch all that happens in the movie. Probably far more so than are realistic in any way. If you want to consider that everything that happens there is physical, which I wonder about that sometimes. How much of it is perception of the people involved, and how much of it is actual physical reality being warped. And because in the end, the house appears to be fixed, and we don't know, doesn't show how that happens. Is it a reversal, a reverting of the house back to normal after the end of the movie? after the damage done to the house by the means that Adam and Barbara were able to banish Beetlejuice. I guess I could say, since it is an older movie and it is part of the setup for the sequel in a way. After they try but fail to say his name 3 times. Barbara somehow she's teleported by Beetlejuice into that desert world that Adam was in, and Barbara was in once for a brief moment, earlier in the film. And so she's stuck there until she shows up again with this sandworm, riding this giant sandworm that comes up through the floor and then makes another hole in it, going back down, taking Beetlejuice with it. And of course, Barbara lands on the floor and is fine. So the idea there, to me anyway, is somehow she was able to either partially either control or communicate with this being, this giant sandworm being, to take Beetlejuice out. So the movie is just about done here, actually, so we'll get through this, luckily, this episode. The movie ends basically with the Maitlands and the Deitches being able to see, the Deitches being able to see the Maitlands, and they end up agreeing. All of them end up agreeing to live in the same house together. And what the Maitlands do is they live in the model of that house, of the same house, inside the model of the town. So again, going back to this idea of how much space does a spirit actually have to take up if it wants to. So anyway, and another amazing part of this, again, I wonder about the whole idea of perception and how much of everything that happens in these movies is perception and how much is the manipulation of physical matter and reality. Who knows? But Lydia grows closer to the Maitlands. They kind of become like a second set of parents, and one could argue that possibly that they are maybe better parents in a way than what Charles and Delia were to Lydia. But so they end up just going on with this afterlife, with the Maitlands being stuck in the house, and with Lydia going to school in the area, and the Maitlands helping and tutoring her in her studies. So yeah, it's an amazing movie. It does end with Beetlejuice in that waiting room again, because we assume he's been eaten by the sandworm in a way, however that works. And he's waiting in line, but his number is several digits long. And he sees that the one sitting next to him, who is some kind of a witch doctor, tries to switch the papers with them that have their number on it so that he can go next and get out of there. And the movie ends with this witch doctor shrinking Beetlejuice's head while he's waiting there. And so that's sort of just the way that they end that, with a funny little clip there. And so yeah, but the movie was really amazing. All the things. Also, it does show Charles, so Lydia's father, with this book about how to coexist with the living and with spirits. How those two basically beings on either side of the veil, how they could live together in the same space. And of course, Delia is still making art that is still freaking Charles out. So it was an amazing movie. I've watched it. I've gone through a couple of. I've actually worn out a couple of DVD copies of the movie over the years by watching it, really listening to it more than anything. So much. The things I wonder about in that movie is there's a couple of things. It makes me wonder is there just one of these other side office complex areas? Or is there one for each general area, one each part of the world? Of course, the movie doesn't go into that. But it's an amazing concept. I've always wanted to work that into one of my stories. This idea of this sort of halfway point between, I don't know, between the living and the physical world and the purely spiritual or energetic or consciousness world. I don't know. But the other weird thing about that world and the way ghosts are sort of shown in the movie is that they're shown as they died. In other words, the Maitlands, when they got home, they were dripping wet. They were just completely soaked. There's other beings, other people in this office that you can visually tell how they passed, probably by how they look and how they sound and everything. And that's something that will be, I think, is expanded on in the sequel when we get to reviewing that, which will be next one of these review episodes here. The other side is the other amazing thing is this idea of, again, the abilities of a spirit once they passed on, what they can do, what they can't do, how long it takes them to figure out what they can do. And just in comparison, the things that Barbara and Adam are able to do are fairly basic. I think the most extreme thing that Adam does, and that they both do to a degree, but Adam does is near the beginning of the movie when they're trying to frighten off this family from living in their home. One of the scenes, or one of the things they decide to do is they have Adam's body laying on the floor and Barbara standing over him with a knife in one hand and Adam's head in the other. And it's not super gory, but it gets the message across, the idea across. And of course, because he's not actually alive, Adam is able to talk, and he does in that scene. He says he doesn't feel like this is working at all. So it definitely is sort of a dark humor kind of a movie. But overall, it's not as gory as I think they could have made it, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I've listened to that movie over the years so many times. The biggest things to me, again, are just where is that other side afterlife office at, and is there just one, or are there many, in all over different parts of the world? And who sets the rules? That's one of the other things I wondered about that when the Maitlands find out they have to live in their house for 125 years. Who decided that? Who makes those rules? The movie does not get into any that I've noticed or that I can think of. It doesn't really get into anything, any explanations for all this that go into religion in any way. So, and again, everything is very. You get what you need to get through the movie, but you don't get all the details, which I actually do like a lot. Anyway, that's my review of the first Beetlejuice movie. We will go move to the second one next time. I'll talk, and thank you all for listening. And I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.